bright light.
Wow, very bright light.
Well, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. The house is open and we have to start on time. Just to borrow from your script, Mr. Sorkin. I'd like to put a question to you and Danny just to get things rolling. Danny has called the screenplay Shakespearean in content. So I'd like to ask both of you, to what extent your respective backgrounds in theatre actually fed into the work on this film, which is so visually dynamic and yet unfolds like a three-act play. Aaron.
Damn. It affected my work a lot. It always does. I'm most comfortable as a playwright. I feel that I kind of fake my way through movies, but obviously I like language a lot. My parents started taking me to see plays starting from when I was very little. Oftentimes I was either too young or just not bright enough to understand what was going on stage. I mean, in my defense, I was 9 and it was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. But I loved the sound of dialogue. It sounded like music to me, so I wanted to imitate that sound. I don't have much of a visual sense at all, so I kind of find my way through with language, and I also like very claustrophobic spaces, compressed periods of time, and all those things factored into creating a movie like this. Of course, if you're going to do that, you do need a director with a great visual sense, a director who is able to get great performances out of the greatest actors, and of course I'm describing Danny Boyle.
Thank you, Aaron. It was an amazing experience, I think, for all of us, picking up the script, which was just an amazing, like 185 pages of dialogue, whereas your regular scripts are like 110 pages and lots of stage directions. There was no, Aaron seemed so affable, but there was no indication in the script about how to do it. Or it was just like interior day, continuous, and off you went. And off we went. And I think we all wanted to make it as rich an experience as possible for the audience in two ways, really. The acting, and you've got to get great actors to pull off this stuff, which I'm delighted to say we did. And then you wanted to make it an immersive experience, so you were immersed in those actors and their world. And I suppose I love theatre, but I love cinema more, I suppose, in the way, because it has got that weird, illogical thing where you get lost in it. For me, theatre, I don't know. I went to a Hamlet the other night to see Benedict Cumberbatch Hamlet, who's really excellent. But you're not quite immersed in it in the way you would be in film, I think. So that's what you're trying to do, is just immerse people in these people's performances and environment, really. That's what you're after, aren't we? That's what we're trying to do, I guess.
And a question for the cast, just to get us all talking. I'd like to know your thoughts about the screenplay and the script. Is Sorkinese, as it's been dubbed, a sublime gift, or does it come with its own unique complexities? Jeff, if we could start with you, you'd probably have the jump here because you've been speaking it for a little while.
It is its own language in a way, but it's just more work. There's more of it, so there's more work before you show up at 6 a.m. to shoot whatever. So you have to do that work and to get so on top of it that it's second nature. And that's what you have to do. It's just more reps and a lot more memorization, a lot more over and over and over, and so that you can walk in there that day ready to hit it. And everybody did. I mean, that's what we did on Newsroom, and you certainly don't have to do that on every movie, but you have to do it on an Aaron Sorkin script, and that's what we all did. We did the work.
Kate and Michael?
Well, when I first read it, page 1, page 2, God, wow, these people talk for a long time. Oh, God, they still talk for a long time. Page 55, yep, they're still talking. Okay. How the fuck are we going to get through this one? But my immediate reaction, to be honest, aside from how incredible it was to read and how solid every single character was, and how Jeff has said before, actually, Aaron writes the way that people think. And I don't think I'd ever really come across that quite to this extent. But I really did think, holy shit, Michael Fassbender? I am going to be his friend, and I am going to help him, and I am going to hold his hand. And I think I can safely say that that he didn't need either of those things, any of those things. No, you bloody didn't. But you know, you just get on with it. You know, much is being made about the length of the script and how much there was to learn. You know, you're an actor. You learn your fucking lines. It's, you know, that's the first thing you do. You just get on with it. The pressure really comes in not forgetting them. You know? that really is it, because you fuck everyone up. If you drop a word, the whole thing unravels and turns to dog shit. I mean, it really does.
Kate's up. Cut it.
Sorry, I'm at home. I feel comfy. But that really was, I think, that was the pressure, because it's not just the actors that you're walking and talking with. You know, you've got these Steadicam guys, a Steadicam guy who was just unbelievable. I don't know how he held that machine for 12, 13-minute takes sometimes, not to mention boom operators who are running after you, trying not to trip over themselves and wires. And, you know, there's so much concentration that goes on that it really does fall horribly to the actors if they forget something. Yes, I've said enough.
I just think I just felt very lucky that it landed on my lap. It's a one-off that you get scripts like this, certainly sort of modern day scripts. So I just thought, well, there goes my break, which was planned over that period of time. But, you know, just lucky. I just thought to myself, this is extraordinary writing, and it's just the best script that I'd read. So, was thrilled, and then, as both Jeff and Kate said, then the work starts, and then you're less thrilled about it. But no, it was, like I say, it's a one-off opportunity for I think, an actor to receive writing like that and get the opportunity to do something like that, especially nowadays when, most scenes, comprise of like 10 sentences or something like that. This was the most, all of the electricity and action in this film is sort of dialogue driven. So it's a rare opportunity.
Thank you. And Katherine, you described the script as seductive. I just wondered what seduced you.
I don't remember saying that. But yeah, I mean, it's all seductive. Even the first email I got with just was a couple names on it. Danny Boyle, Aaron Sorkin. It's you just scramble to hit the download button fast enough to start reading it. I mean, that's the thing with Sorkin too, is that like. It's sort of weird just saying Sorkin all casually, like saying it right here. Does it feel weird for you?
I liked it coming from you.
That's the thing about Sorkin. See, what are you? You go on, shall I?
Please.
No, but the thing about it is that even when the part's going to be good before you found it in the script. Do you know what I mean? Even the small parts have something. He gives every actor something to do. I don't know. I find his writing very. This is so sappy, but kind of touching because he gives so much to the actors. It's sort of everything he writes is kind of in praise of actors in a way, because he thinks, hey, you guys are kind of good at what you do. I'm going to give you something to do, rather than something to try to get through or fix or disguise.
That's true.
Yeah. No, that's true. You like us? You really like us?
I really, really do, as a matter of fact. And I would be mortified at the idea that there was something where your job was to make it work. As opposed to, bringing the enormous talent that you have to it and making it sing.
That's what happens. Hopefully. I mean, I don't know about the singing part, but it being really great is what happens.
The singing.
Was that articulate? Oi.
And Michael Stuhlbarg, you read Walter Isaacson's book, so I wondered what impressed you then about the
He's the only one
screen.
that read it.
I was the only one. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Sorry, you read the book, so what impressed you then about the screenplay, having read that biography?
The remarkable ability on Aaron's part to condense so much information and to make it so thrilling and rise to into a dramatic place, perhaps. You know, there's so much that goes by so quickly, but so much is included. You know, and to pinpoint these 3 pivotal moments in Mr. Jobs' life, and to be able to really, you know, part of what we do as well is what Aaron does so beautifully is to perhaps take something substantial and real and to reimagine it and give it a different kind of life. You know, it's been said that this is more of a painting than a photograph. Taking the book and using it sort of as a starting off point and bringing it to life in a different way, giving a suggestion or a sense of what the inspiration of what his inner life was like and what he was going through at that particular time, and then to have Danny's bold vision and style take a piece of literature and bring it to life in a remarkable way. It's a huge achievement. I'm really proud to have been a part of it.
You know, I'm just a little nervous. The cast is being so nice to me right now. This is how you treat the family dog right before you take him to the vet to have him put down. Somebody's going to toss a stick any second. Oh, come on, let's play.
Right, we'll open it to the floor. There's a lady in the front row, and if you'd be kind enough to pass the microphone back to the gentleman behind you immediately after your question. Thank you.
Will do. Good morning, all. Question to all the panel. I'm Claire Bueno from Premier Scene. The one thing that struck me from the film was just how uncompromising Jobs is. And I wondered, as filmmakers, how uncompromising you all were to bring the truth of this story to the big screen.
I've got to say, Michael is an uncompromising actor, and I think on some level I connected that with what we knew about Jobs. I knew that the way that Michael would approach it would be he would be in search of, he's not interested in a hatchet job or in a deification, he's interested in the truth, in the way that Jobs pursued a perfection in his work. And I mean, to watch Michael work in pursuit of that was really uncompromising. And I mean, and I think it lifted the level for all the actors, and you get it for the crew as well, because when you get somebody on set like that who is ready like that to pursue live something, everybody's like, oh, right, okay, let's do it. And he said to me, he said, why don't you shoot the rehearsal? Because what happens on a set is the actors turn up early in the morning and we kind of rough it through, and then they go off and get the stuff done. Meanwhile, the crew light and stuff like that. And then you come back and then you have a full rehearsal, normally. That's what you do, where everybody learns what they're doing or think they do. And he said, why don't you shoot it? I'd never done that before. And it's an amazing thing, because suddenly everybody's like, what? We're shooting the rehearsal? What? The focus pullers like this? And often it's the best take. And so I'll be doing that from now on, really. So. Focus pullers won't be very pleased. Yeah, he's very silent, though.
Sorry, am I supposed to say? What was the question? Oh, the pursuit of, how we approach it. I mean, I think, we've all said, the script was exceptional. There was a lot of it. And Danny, coming from theatre background, realized how we would have, need to approach it. So he set everything up for and about the actors. I have to say, he's just so generous and patient with me many times, and but just really kind of set up an environment for us where we could really do the best and in the most sort of supportive surroundings. For example, we got rehearsal. So, we had 2 weeks rehearsal before we started the first act. We went away, filmed the first act in 2 weeks. Then we had 2 weeks to prep the second act, filmed again the second act 2 weeks, and so forth for the third. I mean, that's unheard of, because the accountant's going apeshit. He's going, we can't pay for this. And, again, the fact that he comes from a theatre background, realized the importance of that, so that we would be well rehearsed. We'd have tried out and done our mistakes in the rehearsal space, got to really sort of feel it out with one another as actors, and then approach it on the day and shoot fast and effectively. And you know, I have to say, without him, it would have close to impossible to do it in a regular way of filming. So I have to sort of say, you know, massive thanks to him.
Yeah, and it's funny because to me the word uncompromising is almost at odds with the word collaboration, you know, and so I'm sitting here kind of going, how am I going to even answer that question? Because for me the thing that I felt most keenly was an absolutely fundamental sense of collaboration between everybody, and that was Danny, because as Michael just said, Danny really did not only insist on this rehearsal, but he put all of us in the room. So we sat down on day one to do a read through with everyone terrified. And that was the way that it began, and where possible, and for the majority of the time, we were all in that space. So, you know, Michael and I would be thrashing a scene around, or Jeff and Michael would be thrashing a scene around, and we'd sometimes run out of ideas going, what should we try next? And then, you know, almost turn to the rooms. Anyone, how did that play? Did anyone, okay, so that didn't work. Okay, all right, well, good to know. Okay, well, maybe we'll try something different next time. And what that does is it sort of, it neutralizes the entire environment, and it makes everybody equal. And with a small company of actors like that, which we were, it really pulled us all together. There was no hierarchy, there's no fuss. You know, you just get on with it. And that tone was very much set by Danny, and by you, though. Because Michael didn't have any stuff around him. It was just Michael doing the job and absolutely setting the tone as well, and setting that bar very, very high for all the other actors who also popped in and out of the shoot. You know, they'd come in and they'd have to just knuckle under and lead by example, which was set by Michael.
And also, like, as well, with the you know, the setting, you know, but getting to do it in San Francisco, which was not also cheap. You know, there would have been other options to do it elsewhere, and definitely would have been more cost effective. But again, Danny was like, no, it's important that we set it here, where this whole thing was born. And I thought that really certainly helped us, right? I mean, you know, the locations that we had, the feeling that we were doing it in the home of, you know, not only Steve Jobs, but, you know, the you know, technology and this sort of new wave of the world that we all live in now, which is the tech age.
I know the first thing we shot was in the garage, wasn't it? Where it all began, and that was the first thing we shot, wasn't it?
And it was the actual garage. How do you
garage,
say it?
garage.
But it was the
You're
real
saying
one.
garage now.
I've started saying it, I know.
Because the voice coach was always giving out to you because you were saying garage, and he was like, no, garage.
But it was the real one.
It was a real one, and it will be a museum eventually. I think it's a real garage at the moment.
It's halfway. Mid-Atlantic.
Thank you. Gentleman in the second row, and then if you pass.
Hi everyone, I'm on Woman from Anonymous. First of all, congratulations on the film. I really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. My question is for the actors. There's a great piece of dialogue where Steve Jobs says, "I play the orchestra." If Danny Boyle is your conductor, for you as actors, where do you fit within the orchestra?
I was an oboe. I don't know where you were.
I think I was just the cymbals, you know, crashing every now and then.
A dear friend of mine, my dad always says, you don't need to read the reviews because your friends will always tell you when they're bad. And someone wrote, and a friend sent to me, shrill but believable, which I thought was really incredible, like backhanded compliment or something. But so I guess that's like a violin or something.
Jeff, where do you fit in the orchestra?
I'm a bassoon, whatever that is.
Such a good word.
It's a good word.
Such a good word.
And Michael Stuhlbarg, where are you in the orchestra?
I'm not exactly sure what I would be. Perhaps the occasional percussive instrument of, not exactly sure. Perhaps, you know, whether it's a touch on a cymbal, a knock on a thing, a piccolo, perhaps a flute. I'm not, you know, he sort of like comes in and provides whatever's needed in a moment. I have no idea of where I fit in the orchestra, but I'm glad to be there. I'm second chair. Viola, perhaps. Viola.
You're a whole section down there.
Thank you. If you'd pass the mic along to this gentleman, but we'll go up here because just while we're doing that. Thank you. Yeah.
Hi, it's Alistair Harkness from The Scotsman up here. It's a question for Danny. There's a film in this festival called Tangerine, which was shot on an iPhone. And as an early adopter of digital technology yourself, I wonder if part of the appeal for you of Steve Jobs was that kind of forward-thinking nature that's led us to this point. And also, just very briefly, did you consult with Ridley Scott about shooting that original Mac advert?
Well, I out of respect, I kind of rang him up and said, we're using 1984, because he shot the 1984 advert, which Michael and Jeff stand in front of. But we didn't ask his permission, because actually the basic principle we worked to is we sought forgiveness rather than ask permission. Just, that was the kind of, but it's a very sensible way to do it, actually, in this business, if you can get away with it. No, seriously. It's very interesting, your question, because, of course, because this guy, and it's, I think, the reason that we made the film, all of us, this guy has changed our lives in an extraordinary way, both in an obvious way about communication and the phone, but in so many other ways, this drive to the digital world that we now live in. And the implications of that, we're not discussing them in the film, but they're huge and significant. So to see where it emerged from and who that person was, or a version of who that person was, is essential, I think, for all of us to, and for this business and storytellers generally, to look at his life. We were very lucky because we were able to kind of almost illustrate it, because we shot the first act on 16mm, which is obviously because it was the earliest act, and also because he felt like, and certainly the way Michael did it, he felt like a guy fighting all these impossible forces that were stopping him getting to this vision or stopping people seeing it. And it felt like a rough, homemade kind of version, as though they'd even done it in the garage themselves. And then we moved to 35 for the second act, which is a beautiful storytelling act because it's an illusion act, and that felt beautiful for the Opera House. And then we moved to digital, because the third part is set in 1998, and although the Alexa camera, which is what we used, wasn't generally in use then in cinema, Jobs had already got there, of course, because he released Toy Story in 96, and I remember going to see it in Leicester Square, just thinking the world has changed. I was turning up expecting a sleepy morning at an animated film with my kids and just feeling like you'd just been reborn. Something had changed out there in the world and everything was going to be different. I mean, in a minor way, obviously, it's with filmmakers, it's not kind of a big deal, but within our circumspection, that was just an earthquake, so he'd already got there. So it was great to pay him that respect, really, and also it helps the actors if you shoot on an inferior format like 16mm when they're trying to play a bit younger than themselves. So.
Oh, it's fabulous. It's absolutely wonderful. I have to say, I was thrilled. Absolutely thrilled, and then they completely fucked us over with it.
Thank you. There's a gentleman in the front row, and then we'll go back again. Yeah.
Hello, it's a question for Michael and Darren in particular. I'm Neil from CNN. A lot of people who won't know Steve Jobs just know him as the guy in the turtleneck who gave us the iPhone, the iPod, and might be making an impression of the man from this film. How accurate a portrayal would you say it would be? And as a little sidebar to Michael, Ireland are 23-20 down in the World Cup. Have you been following the rugby?
I'm wondering what's happening now. Does anybody know?
It's 23-20 to Argentina at the moment.
Okay, so how many minutes we got left?
20.
Okay, I think we'll win.
Just hurry up, talk quickly,
Yeah,
and then you'll get to
yeah, exactly. I don't really know. The only thing that I know about the man, and I've sort of learned this sort of by doing this job and meeting people, is through the prism of the media or through what other people say. Unless I met him myself, I couldn't really tell. I just really respected what was in the script. I realized that we were doing a dramatization as opposed to a biopic. And so all my information was in the script. I knew nothing about the man really before I started. But it's interesting, you said, from what we know, the man in the turtleneck. It's funny how he came to wear a uniform at a certain point in his life, because I don't know, was he aware that would also enter into mythological sort of status with him? Certain people that wear uniforms, like the Dalai Lama, you remember, that he wears his uniform, that Steve Jobs is in the turtleneck and the jeans. And was that a conscious decision, or was it just that it was one less decision to make in the morning when he wakes up? But I just tried to take my own sort of feeling from what was in the script, and then I just watched whatever was available on YouTube, from interviews to seminars to speeches. So I can't really say, you know. I filled in my own blanks, but they could be totally off. But I thought it was a very interesting character in the script. I thought it was something that, you know, you hear so many stories about him, you know, good and bad, and I just thought there seemed to be a balance, a mix there in the script, which to me seemed to serve some element of the truth.
The question is, I think you're asking, would somebody who came to this movie walk away with a fair sense of who Steve Jobs was? I don't know what a fair sense of anybody is, really. I agree with Michael. First of all, if you asked 1,000 people who knew Steve Jobs for their impressions of Steve Jobs, I think you'd get 1,000 different impressions. What you don't see in this movie is a dramatic recreation of his Wikipedia page. Okay? Yeah, you see something much different. What you see is a dramatization of several of the personal conflicts that he had in his life, and they illustrate something. They give you a picture of something, and are they fair? I do believe they're fair. My conscience is clear, and I don't think I would have done anything unfair. I don't even think I would have done anything that was in bounds, that was fair, but cruel, you know? Listen, I'll say this. Generally speaking, Steve Jobs did not, as far as I know, have confrontations with the same 6 people 40 minutes before every product launch that he gave. That's plainly a writer's conceit. Just as Bob Dylan lyrics did not appear on the floor when Steve and Scully were talking about Bob Dylan, nor did Skylab blast off on the wall when Steve and Joanne were talking about Skylab, which, for all I know, they never did. That Skylab speech, again, is a writer's invention. But I do think that the movie gets at some larger truths, some more important truths than what really went on during the 40 minutes before product launches, which I don't think was the stuff of drama.
Okay, there's a gentleman in the middle of the seventh row. Thank you. And yeah.
Hello, Jerry Sommers, 200% Magazine. Question for Kate and Michael. Steve Jobs has inspired many people around the world. Has Steve Jobs also been a source of inspiration for your own personal lives?
Sorry, is that to me? So who's that?
Yes, to you.
It's for Michael and Kate.
No. I'm terribly sorry, but no. I can't say that Steve has been a source of inspiration for me, not really. But I can't just have that be my answer. Do I think that he was extraordinary? Yes, I do actually. And I think that's partly because the relationship that Steve and Joanna had as friends meant that I had access, I had a sort of a whole other backstage pass, really, in terms of information about Steve and stories about him that just moments that the two of them had shared as friends. And I can honestly say that I think if I had met him, I think I would have quite liked him. But that's probably because Joanna really did love him. And I think that's the best I can do for you there in terms of that answer.
Like I said before, I didn't really know anything about him. I mean, I was aware of who he was. But since then, yeah, I think definitely while working on it, and since then, for sure, the fact that he had a vision back in the mid-'70s, the late '70s, and continued striving towards that vision, and here we are all living it now. I think that's extraordinary passion and commitment and focus Also, having met people that were close to him, both sort of in the workplace and you know, in just sort of personal relationships, the effect that he still has on these people, and some I feel like are still orbiting around him in some respect, and the love that was apparent for the man.
Incredible loyalty.
Yeah, and you know, I just think anybody who rolls the dice like that as well, you know, to have been ousted from Apple, to get back up, dust himself down, build next, although it didn't, you know, really amount to much except, well, the software, which eventually sort of it was used later for the new Apple products, but also what he did with Pixar and the vision and you know, much like sort of Elon Musk, these guys that you know, whatever money they made, they could easily sit back and enjoy the hundreds of millions that they're worth, but they put it all back in and risk it all over again. I think that's pretty extraordinary, and it is inspiring, yeah.
We have about 2 minutes left, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lady at the back there. Yeah.
Hi, Orla Barry from News Talk in Ireland. I think Ireland are going to win the rugby as well. A question for Michael. I know members of Steve Jobs' family have been quoted as saying that they weren't happy with the film going ahead. And there's some reports, I don't know whether they're true or not, that they appealed to other actors associated with the role initially not to take part in the film. I wonder if you'd any hesitation about that, and now that the film is out there, if Steve Jobs' family are unhappy about it, how you would feel if they're unhappy with your portrayal of their husband or father.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it did make me hesitate. You know, the idea, you know, of course, when you're playing somebody that really did, you know, live in the world that we live in and has since passed away, and they have close ones that obviously would be worried about how their late husband or father or friend is going to be portrayed. For sure, it weighed on my conscience. But, you know, having spoke to my father and close friends, and much the same as, you know, he actually said it's like journalism. You know, you have a responsibility to tell stories, and that's your job. And if you approach it with the utmost respect, which I did, and I, you know, as I said, you know, answering the gentleman's question previous, I have the utmost respect for Steve Jobs and his family, and by no means ever wanted to set out portraying somebody without that respect going into it. So, yeah, hopefully, you know, when they see it, if they see it, they don't feel hurt by it, because it certainly wasn't my intent.
If you don't mind, could I mention that while, and it's this has been widely reported, that while Mrs. Jobs, while Lorraine Powell Jobs did certainly from the get-go object to the movie being made, Lisa Jobs did not. And she's the one who's portrayed in the movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to leave it there. Can I ask you to thank our guests this afternoon? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey